Good afternoon, everyone, from Dunrovin Ranch in Lolo, Montana. I don't know which camera James is using right now, whether you are up on the ranch camera or down here on the arena camera. I'm going to suppose it's the arena camera, and we'll talk to this camera, and if not, James can switch us out. I have two great women here with me today to celebrate my lovely Lady Lonza's birthday. Everybody knows Colleen. Say hello, Colleen.
Hey there, how's it going, you guys?
I think this is the first time she's actually worn a microphone.
It is,
Yeah,
first time on
you
mic.
see her around all the time, day and night. She's out here and she's learned an enormous amount, have you not, Colleen?
I have, in an incredible, just over a month long of time. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
I'm hoping to learn so much more, thanks
Yeah.
to Suzanne here.
Yeah. She's a great worker, as you know. She's very industrious, and she's actually figured out these donkeys. Anybody who can figure out the donkeys has got it wired. They're pretty pushy, aren't they?
Yep, and they're a latch away from figuring out.
Yes, they are. And we'll have a little information about those latches next week.
Yep.
Okay. And then immediately to her right is a new person. Come on over here and get in between us here, Tesla.
Yep.
Okay. This is Tesla Hastings, and I'm going to stand next to you a little bit so you will be heard.
Okay.
So Tesla, explain how you dropped into my world.
Well, I am a film designer and costume designer for many short films and feature films around Montana. And I have my own personal projects where I take film photographs and do these kind of ethereal shoots. And so I have a horse costume that I got from India when I was out traveling, and looking to put together a shoot for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she contacted me looking for a white horse, right?
A white horse,
A
yes,
white horse.
because the costume is red and gold, so I thought that white would be nice with
Right.
the color scheme.
Right.
Mhm.
And I explained that I don't have a white horse. And I also explained that very few people do, in part because they have such light skin and they're prone to skin cancer. So people don't generally select white horses. I mean, the Lipizzomers, and there's some very famous white horses. But generally, if you're out and about, people, don't breed for white. But I told her I had a champagne-colored horse, and this is your first encounter with a champagne. Right?
It is. He's very beautiful.
Yeah, different color, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So everybody knows that June 15th is Lady Lonza's birthday. And it happens to be on my father's birthday as well. And I wanted to celebrate with all of you, her, but also my father. And I thought we could do that by, number one, grooming up the lovely Lady Lonza, and by me telling you some of the stories about Lady Lonza. So let's go ahead and start grooming, and I'll start some stories, and if you want to ask questions, just ask questions about her. She was born here, and the first foal I ever had was Lady Lonza. It's the first one that was born on Dunrovin. She's been here a long time. This is her 18th birthday today.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's get give some time with this young woman. Not so young. 18 is actually getting up there. It would be akin to late 50s maybe, or early 50s, like a 50-year-old person. No longer a youngster, no longer in her prime. She had a foal 3 years ago, and that is, about the age you want to stop having foals, although in the wild, horses have foals up until they're, well into their 20s. But, when a horse gets to be around 20, that's when they start to retire. So first of all, the reason I wanted to name her after my dad was not just because she was born on my dad's birthday, but it was my dad who really gave me a love of animals. My father was just crazy about animals. We always had a dog in my house, and my father rode a horse to school when he was a kid. Dad was raised on a ranch with no men around. his father died when he was about 5. And so he was raised on a ranch with 3 or 4 women. My grandmother, whose name, by the way, is Gertrude, and we do have an animal named Gertie, don't we? Which one is that, Colleen?
Yes, we do. Great Gertie. She's over there in her pen right now. Otherwise, she'd probably be very interested.
Yeah, she's the donkey. And I can tell you that both my dad and my grandmother would love to have a donkey named after her. I mean, that would not be a problem at all. And the other donkey's name is Maud, which was my great aunt. So, you know, you can tell I really love naming things with names that have meaning to me. Anyway, my dad rode a horse to school, and when I was a child, we would visit relatives of his up near Great Falls, and on occasion I would get to go horseback riding with some of my relatives who are still in that part of the world and who still lived on ranches. And of course it was my great-grandmother, my father's grandmother, who built the cabin on Carpenter Creek near Great Falls that was named Dunrovin, and that's where I got the name. And I spent many, many summers with my grandmother. Never met my great-grandmother. She was dead by the time I was born. But I had, right after we moved to Dunrovin, my mother got a book from a little tiny book about my great-grandmother's home on the border of Wisconsin and Minnesota on the Mississippi River, Missouri River. I don't know which one, Mississippi, Missouri? I think it's Mississippi by there.
I think it'd be the
Mississippi, yeah, right. At any rate, for the first time, I saw my great-grandmother standing next to a horse that she had named Lady, and she had a dog with her. And the book said that that Lady was her fancy gaited horse. And, you know, this was after my father had died, so here I was in Montana with my fancy Tennessee walking gaited horse named Lady Lonza after her grandson. And I thought, wow, you know, I sure didn't fall far from my family tree. Here I was, a reincarnation of my great-grandmother. And indeed, Lady Lonza is, you know, special to me in so many ways, both because of the family connection and because she's just a wonderful horse. I mean, she's just a beautiful, I mean, I was thrilled when she came out as a champagne. And I know that many of you on the camera can't see, but you can see how she has a little bit of a dapple? See that, stand back, you can see just a little bit of a darker coloration.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little dappled. Yeah, well, later when we're finished, we'll take her out and see if you can't see it, and they can see it as well. So it's just this beautiful fawn colored, and I was also thrilled that her underlying skin is dark, because like I said, horses that are really light colored tend to get skin cancer. And so she has dark around her eyes and around her mouth and muzzle, and I was very glad to see that because I knew she'd be a lot less susceptible to skin cancer with the dark coloring under her skin, under her fur, her actual skin. And so she's just been, look at her ears go back. That's because canners showed up. Look at, she's, oh, yeah, no, it had nothing to do with you. It has to do with those horses over there, yeah. She's saying, get away.
I'm the birthday girl.
Yeah, I'm the birthday girl. And all of you who've been watching for a long time understand her role in the herd of horses here at Dunrovin. You know, it's really interesting. Everyone thinks of the stallion, the male, as being the herd leader. And he does, the stallion does play that role in terms of protection against other stallions. But it's really the mare in a herd of horses that is the leader. She's the one who remembers where the water is and where protection is and where the good grazing is. And the horses really give deference to mares. And you see that in this herd. The boys will give her deference. And she doesn't push very often, but when she does, they get out of her way. You know, she's pretty much on the top of the chain when she wants to be. And she doesn't always want to be, but when she wants to be, she can really assert herself. But as a horse for a person, Lonza has been just terrific. As I said, she was born on my dad's birthday, the year after he died. So what was going to be a really sad day for my mother and me turned out to be a really wonderful day. And I'll tell you about her birth. I had several horses at that time. Annie was her mother, and most of you who have been here for any length of time remember Annie. She died a little over a year ago. I had Annie and a horse named Power and another horse named Denali, and then I had a pony named Sugar. So it was a small herd at the time. And I slept out in the barn, and the truth is there was just this tiny little part of a barn at that point because I was wanting to be here when she was born. I slept out there, and I got up at 5 in the morning after having almost no sleep, and I thought, okay, it's not going to happen today, and I went in, and I went to sleep. And what was interesting is my family had gone to Wisconsin, and I stayed back because of her impending birth. And so I got up at around 7, and the minute I woke up, I knew that she had been born. And the way I knew is everybody was whinnying like crazy out in the barnyard. I mean, they were just running around like nuts. The other 3 horses, Denali and Power and Sugar. And even though I couldn't see Annie, I knew she had to have had the foal. And so I rushed out here, and indeed, one of the first things I want to do with a horse is to imprint it, a foal. And some of you have seen me do this. And what you do when you imprint a foal is you put your hand in all of its orifices, its ears, its mouth, its anus, anywhere that a vet would want to put a hand. And then what you do is you teach it what's called pressure and release. And what that is you hold the foal's leg, and if it struggles, you keep holding it. And the minute it relaxes, you let go. And what the horse learns, if you do this repeatedly over 4 or 5 days when they're first born, is they learn that if you apply pressure, if they just relax, you're going to let go. And that has a lot of implications for teaching a horse, for a simple thing like standing here tied to a rail. I mean, a foal doesn't know to do that, and at first they'll pull back, but they know that if they relax, that's when they get the release of the pressure. So it's a really important lesson. But I was by myself, and so I had, Annie was a great mare and allowed me to do almost anything, but I had to find somebody to help me because I wanted somebody to hold the mare while I was imprinting Lonza. And at that time, I hadn't had the name yet, frankly. Number one, I didn't know she would be born on my dad's birthday. So anyway, my friend came and I imprinted her. And in imprinting her with one of her back legs, she was really struggling. And I let go after she relaxed. Well, then she kicked out one more time and got me right in the cheek. So I ended up with a full print right on my cheek on day 1 from Lady Lonza. And it wasn't a bad thing. It was just a little imprint there. But once I was done with all of that, and I picked up the placenta and had the vet come out and all of that kind of thing to examine her and make sure she was fine and make sure that the mare was fine, I called my mother. I had planned to spend the day with my mother because it was my dad's birthday, and it was going to, I didn't want her to be alone. She lived 10 miles away. And I called her and I said, "Oh, Mother, you're not going to believe what's happened. This beautiful foal has been born. I better come and get you." So I came and got her, and it was just the most wonderful. I'm going to cry about this because it was just the most wonderful afternoon with my mom the year my dad died. And I said to my mom, I really want to name her after him because I felt that she was a gift somehow, that my dad was looking down and making sure that she was born on his birthday. So I thought about the name for a long time. My father's name was William Lonzo Goodman. And there are feminine versions of William, Wilhelmina, things like that, none of which attracted me at all. And there wasn't much you could do with Goodman. I mean, that just wasn't doing it for me either. And then I glommed onto his middle name, Lonzo, and I thought, wow, if I just changed it to a feminized version Lonza, that would really stand out. And indeed, I called her Lady Lonza. And I just love the name because it's a beautiful name, first of all, and it's different. And it just takes me right back to my dad. And I had such fun with this young gal when she was a little girl. And by that time, her mother was lame. I could not ride her mother. Annie had a fractured in her knee. I had it operated on a couple times, but she couldn't carry a rider. But she was still fit in many other ways. So to train Lonza, I would get in my 4-horse trailer with 3 horses. I would ride either Power or Denali, and I would pony Annie, and Lonza would just run behind, chasing her mother. So I'd show up at a trailhead, and people would look at me like I was certifiably crazy because I had 3 horses and 1 saddle and 1 rider. But it worked out really well. And one of the nice things about doing that is she learned to go over and under downfall. She learned how to negotiate mountains and up and down trails. And she met llamas and pigs and goats and, all of the kinds of things that could be concerning to a horse. And because of that, she's a really solid horse. She doesn't get afraid of much. And I wish I had the time and now the energy to do that with her son, Augie. I regret that I'm not on her now, having Augie just follow along, because that's one of the best ways to teach a horse. So he's at a bit of a disadvantage than she was when I was younger, 18 years younger, and could do all of these things. At any rate, many of you know Brandon Carpenter. And when Lonza turned 3, I went to Brandon's home in eastern Montana and started her under saddle. Brandon started while I was there, and then I left her for 3 months, and then I went back and worked with him some more. And he and I went into the mountains south of Yellowstone Park while he rode one of his horses, and I rode Lonza. So her first big ride with me was in the Beartooth Mountains near Yellowstone Park, and gorgeous ride, gorgeous place. And so she's had top-notch training. Everybody knows what I think of Brandon Carpenter and his ability to train horses. And this is exactly what I got from her and from him. So I'm going to trade sides so you can come over and brush on this side, and I'll switch over. So are you enjoying her?
Oh, yeah, so much.
Okay, good.
Very fun.
Yeah, did you see my brand?
I did.
Yeah, that's a freeze brand,
Okay.
which means that you shave the area and you apply liquid nitrogen. It freezes the hair follicles, so it comes back a different color. Yeah. So the only thing that my lovely Lady Lonza is afraid of is bridges. And the reason she's afraid of bridges, and this is the advantage of having been with a horse its entire life, is you understand where her fears come from. I mean, if I had bought this horse, I wouldn't understand why is it that she doesn't like bridges. Well, the reason she doesn't like bridges is I started riding her when I came back from Brandon Carpenter's, and I rode her quite a bit, daily, in fact. And then I started taking her out in the hills, and within the first year or so, I took her on a trail up in the Lolo National Forest. And as we went across a bridge, the bridge gave way, and both she and I fell straight through down to the creek. It was really frightening for both of us. It was really frightening. And neither of us were hurt, thank goodness, but it really stuck with her in her memory. And so every spring when I would ride Lonza, the first bridge that we would come to, she would stop and she would contemplate it. And, you know, normally if I didn't know her history, I might have forced her across, which is, you know, the normal thing to do when you're riding a horse when it balks is to urge it on, keep it going, don't let it balk because it's taking control of the situation. But I never did that with her because I completely understood why she would be so terribly nervous about a bridge. So that first bridge of the year, I would get off and I would walk her across the bridge and she would follow me, and then I'd walk her back across to where we were, and then I'd get on and we'd ride across the bridge and everything was fine. It just seemed like she needed that every year. She needed that assurance that the bridge was going to hold. And, you know, as she got into the summer and as we were doing more bridges and she was, you know, into the summer thing, it would, her fear would dissipate. But every spring it would be the same thing. I'd get on her for the first ride and I think, I wonder if we can go across this bridge without her balking. The answer was no, because that first spring ride she always remembered. I've had some wonderful rides on her, just some enchanting rides. I went with a friend to a place in the Pioneer Mountains that my friend is the one who rides Mickey. Mickey's a really going horse, and this is a going horse too, and they're fast. They're really fast and eager horses. And boy, we just tore up the mountains for 4 or 5 days. It was just wonderful, just the two of us. And sometimes it's fun to go out with a small group because you can really move out fast. So also, you know that she has been selected for painting a number of times, and it's because she makes such a beautiful canvas. You see how she doesn't like those boys coming over this way. It has nothing to do with you guys, it's those guys. Oh no, it's fine. I'll tell you another story about her. She doesn't like them around there at all. Go away, she says. One year I almost never took her on trail rides with people I didn't know. And the reason is if a gelding comes up behind her, she can kick. And so she's not really that safe for rides with guests because she can get a little out of hand, okay? But one time I was taking a group into the Bob Marshall Wilderness, and I needed the last horse, and the last horse was her. And I didn't use her because I was guiding, but I had my ranch manager, who was a guy from Romania at the time, really a cool guy. He rode Lonza. I made him ride way in the back. I said, you cannot ride up with anybody else. You have to ride way in the back. And then when we high-lined at night, which is, it's okay, Lonza, you know, you can make her stop it just by hitting her. Yeah, just, when you're under saddle, I don't let her do this, you know, because she would kick other horses. But at any rate, Daniel was wonderful about keeping her away. She had to have her own high line, and she couldn't be with the geldings at all. But on the last day, the very last day, we were coming out of the Bob Marshall, and it was a long, hot, dusty day, and everybody was hot and tired. And we got back to where the trailers were, and he ties her up in a not very convenient place, behind which we have to go with all of our horses, okay? And I didn't know, I had sent him ahead to get water ready for everybody. I said, you go away ahead, and he did, and it was great. But there was Lonza right in the way, and indeed, she did kick one of the horses. It was Rocket, and the woman who was on Rocket just got grazed by a kick from Lonza. But this is the thing with her. If she's standing at a rail by herself, she can take issue with things. And she's so strong, she's such a big horse, that, you know, she can cause real trouble. And I have yet another story. I had her tied up to my 4-horse trailer, which I love. My 4-horse trailer was built for the backcountry. And it used to have a strange latch on it that had a little arm that stuck out right near where you would tie a horse, and she was tied right near there. And she took exception to something, and it probably was somebody on another horse coming in her direction. And she pulled so hard she almost pulled the trailer over. It got caught underneath her halter. And I had a terrible time getting rid of the situation, and I had to cut the halter with a buck knife that I had with me, just cut the halter and let her go because she was so tied up in it. And of course, when I got back, I took the trailer to a welder and said, get rid of this thing. I need a different way of latching the 4-horse trailer. So now I have this great mechanism for latching the 4-horse trailer. So I could talk on and on about Lonza. Yeah, there's lots and lots of good stories about Lonza. So do you have any questions? Since you've known her a little while here, Colleen?
So for her other babies, because Augie's here, where did her other babies end up? Where'd they go?
She had, Augie was her third, okay, and her first was born on April 15th. And the reason I remember that is I was thinking about calling her taxes, and it was during a snowstorm. It was a little filly during a snowstorm, and a really good friend of mine fell in love with her, and I sold her to a good friend of mine, but I kept her here at the ranch. My friend worked part-time here at the ranch. And then the year that she was a year old, she was just a year old, November the following year, she was killed by a hunter. She was killed by a bow and arrow, by an arrow. And it was one of the worst days of my life, was finding her in the riparian area. It was just horrific. And it precipitated a lot of controversy. You know, we notified the authorities, the Fish and Game got involved, and I got the sheriff involved. It was a really one of the worst things that's happened here at Dunrovin. Her second filly was born while my Romanian ranch manager was here. And it was a gorgeous little filly with one white sock, and I gave her to him, and he named her Serena, and he has built her this wonderful barn in Helena, Montana, and Serena now has a foal. So Lady Lonza is a grandmother at this point. I have not met the little foal, but I stay in contact with photos. And then her last one here was Augie.
Cool. What a lovely life.
Yeah, she's had a good life. The guides that work for me love riding her. She's very sure-footed, extremely sure-footed. I mean, she just never bobbles. You know, she's a really big, strong horse. But if she balks, and she will balk occasionally, you really have to set it straight or she will take over. She's a dominant mare, very dominant. Well, James, I'm wondering if you have any questions. Let me get on the chat on my phone, and I would be happy to answer any questions. And in the meantime, Tesla, come on over here and tell me your history with film and set design. You said that you're from Montana originally, is that right?
I am. I'm from Montana. I'm from the Flathead Valley, near Big Fork area, and I also spent quite a bit of my childhood and upbringing in Missoula as well. Kind of split my time between the two places. My father owned a restaurant in Big Fork called the Coyote Roadhouse Restaurant. So it was a lovely childhood, you know, being brought up in a restaurant, baking bread, and seeing that all action happen. And my grandfather was Beau Brown, and he started the Big Fork Playhouse.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Come over here and make sure people can see you. The Big Fork Playhouse. Big Fork is a small community on Flathead Lake.
Yes,
It's kind of an arts community.
it is.
It's beautiful. It's just really beautiful. But the Big Fork Playhouse is really regionally known. And it's not a small town playhouse by any means. That's fabulous.
Yes. My grandfather, and my grandmother was Marjorie Brown,
Uh-huh.
and she was a professor at the university, and my mother, Blakely Brown, followed in her footsteps. So, yeah, have a history in Montana. I love it here, and growing up with the Big Fork Playhouse, I was introduced to theater, and as I got older, I decided that I wanted to go into film, because film versus theater is on the stage and film is in real life locations like this. And
Yeah.
so I liked being able to learn about many different types of things through that medium.
And I might also put a pitch in for the University of Montana Media Arts Program. It too has a really good, solid reputation, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
It does. A lot of great filmmakers have come out of that program, and really good teachers, and I enjoyed my time.
So I've had this idea for a long time. You know, some years ago, and I asked Tesla if she had known a guy named Alex Polini. He was a student at the Media Arts Program at the University of Montana, and he asked me if he could use a horse. And at that time, he used a horse that was named Smokey. Many of you may have remembered him. Anyway, I invited him out to do that, and it was really funny. When he called me, he said, "I'd like to use a horse," and I said, "Okay, that's possible." He says, "But I also want to go out to Garnet Ghost Town. Are you willing to take a horse out there?" I said, "Well, yeah, sure, of course." And so I made a big fun thing of it. I took a 6-horse trailer and a bunch of women. We all went out and had fun and watched them make this movie. It was great. Part of it was filmed here, and part of it was filmed there. And I stay in contact with Alex. He calls me his Montana mom.
Oh.
I got so close to him. At any rate, we had a fundraiser for the Media Arts Program out here.
Wow.
But since he was here, I thought it would be so much fun, and I hope to be able to do this in the coming years, is to have a Dunrovin Film Festival and have it with only media arts students, and it'd have to be a film either done at Dunrovin with a Dunrovin animal or about Dunrovin in some way, just as a short little 10-minute films.
Sure.
It'd be really fun.
And then would you premiere it here?
I would premiere it here, and I would have a contest, and my followers, the community could vote, and we'd have a cash prize.
Oh, I love that. That's a great idea.
So do you want to help me make this happen?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay. Yeah, seriously, these students are really talented. And it would just be fun to have somebody do it. It could be any kind of movie. It could be a comedic movie, or it could be drama. I don't care.
Yeah.
Just something
Short film. type
short
thing.
film
Okay.
that either filmed here or about one of us or our animals. And, we take our animals all kinds of crazy places, so
Yeah.
it could be any one of those situations.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Good. I just love the fact that horses draw such interesting people like Tesla to our ranch. This is the one thing of having a guest ranch. You never know who's going to come down the road. Alex Polini, you.
Yeah, I got your name from Jerry Rafter,
Yeah.
who's a local producer.
With Wildlife Film
Yep,
Festival.
Yep, she's the producer of the Wildlife Film Festival,
Right.
and I make many movies with her and
Yeah.
work with her all the time. So
We should do the same thing. It could be about wildlife.
yeah, it could be the Wildlife Film Festival. That would be a good
We've had
angle.
events for the Wildlife Film Festival out here a number of times.
Okay,
Yeah. And they did theirs virtually this year.
they did, and it did really, really well.
I want to get that going here.
Yeah.
I really do.
Okay.
So questions, everybody. I'm at the end of the ranch chat. If you have any questions, chat them now, and I'll be happy to answer. Whether it's true or not, that's for you to decide. Okay? I cannot attest to my own veracity, okay? Everybody knows me too well. I don't see any questions. Okay, that's fine. Well, I've enjoyed having you with us. I have enjoyed having you and meeting you, and
Yes.
look forward to this wonderful photo shoot. You think she'll do for your
I
horse?
think so. I think she'll do just.
Did you bring it with
wonderful.
you? Or?
I do have it. I do have it in the car. Yep.
Why don't you bring a piece of it out here?
Okay, sure.
Just
I'll
you'll
bring
give
it
us a
out.
preview.
Okay.
Get a
Yeah.
preview.
Sure.
Not to spoil
Yeah,
too
that
much.
means I have to keep you online just for another minute or so. You can get a little preview of what's in store. This is going to be exciting. This is like our painted horses, you know. This is going to be fun.
Does she make you the best painted horse?
She makes her for a very good painted horse because she's such a solid color.
Yeah.
And the one year that she wasn't painted, it was because she had Augie at her side. Yeah, and I didn't want to put him, he was really young.
Yeah.
I didn't want to put him through that, but he's now at the point where you could paint him.
You could probably take that.
He's, I mean, he stands fairly well, and I think it's going to work really well.
He
Yeah.
loves the attention too.
Oh, he loves the attention. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think we have some changes in the wind for our equine art extravaganza this year just because of the coronavirus. And it seems like we've been upstaged by Swoop, who just brought a fish.
No way.
It might be the first one of the day, hey?
I think so, yeah. They were asking if they would come.
Yeah.
But I know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, they want to know, Tesla, what you think of ospreys. Do you know anything about ospreys?
Huh?
Do you know?
Ospreys?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I don't know too much about ospreys.
Yeah. Birds.
Birds, yeah.
Yeah. That's how this whole ranch got started. Was our
Oh,
ospreys. Okay. So, oh my goodness.
Here is a piece of the back piece.
Oh my goodness.
Here, it's a 5-piece set,
Okay.
and I got this in Pushkar, Rajasthan, India. In Pushkar, they have the Pushkar Fair every year, and it's one of the largest camel fairs in India. And they also have horses there, and so they have. It's just like a fair that you would see here, a county fair. There's rides, and people can go on the rides, and then there's different tents that have different horse and camel gear that you would buy. And so I bought this set, and I had it shipped back with a few other
Oh my goodness.
pieces of clothing.
Oh my goodness.
But it's very fancy, as most Indian wear is, and bedazzled, and yeah, this is part of the set.
What time of the year does this festival or this go on?
It happens in February and March.
Wow.
Is that kind of synchronized with like a color? Don't they have this?
Holi, yep, Holi is another festival. And excuse me, the fair is usually in November, and Holi is more in February.
Okay.
But India has many festivals all the time.
So one of the horses that was painted out here, the artist chose a holy theme and brought out the different paints and just threw them on the horse.
Oh, wonderful!
It was really wonderful.
Cool.
Yeah.
I have some paints.
Do you?
I do.
Yeah. Well, this is fabulous. I can't wait to see her in it. And you are going to have a rider come out and get on her. Is that
I
correct?
think so. Yeah, I have to talk with the actor, but yep.
Okay.
I have
So we'll have to think of what saddle would be most appropriate.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, well, that's, when you're here and when he's here, we'll figure all that out.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
Well, this is exciting. And of course, you are all invited to participate in this. Whenever it happens, we'll stay in touch. Let me see if I can see any more questions here. Sometimes I don't do all that well.
You get on a camel in Rajasthan or in the south of India?
I did. We went on a camel safari camping trip over my birthday. So.
Fabulous. I've never ridden a camel.
Oh.
Always wanted to.
Camels are fun.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
really
fast.
fun to ride. Yeah,
You're way up there.
yeah, they're.
It's
they're
kind of
really
a
fun.
basket.
Uh-huh.
But you balance so perfectly because you kind of see like right in between the two humps. But it's more uncomfortable than being on a horse.
Some camels only have a hump,
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
they?
I
Yeah.
think some camels.
Have a bicamel. They're bifurcated, and I'm going to look that up. I think Siberian camels only have one hump. I'm going to look that up. I'm interested in that now.
That was in Morocco.
Yeah, I know. I think the ones in Siberia, there was a Siberian camel in the Anchorage Zoo Can you believe that?
Of all places.
Yeah, but this is gorgeous. So where exactly would this go on the horse?
I think this goes right on the back.
On the back,
And then I believe this goes more towards the rump. But I will need to look at a picture.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, she's cool with all this. It won't be a problem.
Okay.
That's
okay.
great.
Wonderful.
Well, how wonderful. This is going to be a lot of fun. All right. Well, I'm going to sign off. Everyone says how beautiful it is.
Oh, thank you.
Okay,
Thank
and
you.
they are enjoying it very much. Okay.
Wonderful.
Well, thank you all, and for celebrating our birthday with the lovely Lady Lonza, and we'll be back this evening with some donkey training in McKinsey, 6:30, I believe. Okay,
So I'll be
thank
feeding
you.
them early tonight.
Early tonight, yeah, they don't want to have they want to be fed first before class.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you and goodbye.
Bye bye guys.
Bye.